Hello and welcome to On The Record, a new music business podcast from Billboard and SickBird Productions. I'm your host, Kristen Robinson, and today we are joined by Amy Allen, perhaps the most in-demand pop songwriter out there today. In just a few years, she's written top Hot 100 hits like Espresso, Without Me, APT, Greedy, Adore You, Graveyard, Please Please Please, and so many more. She was the first woman to ever earn the award for Grammy Songwriter of the Year, and most recently, she helped Sabrina Carpenter create her latest Billboard #1 album, Man's Best Friend, writing every single song on the record. I wanted to have Amy on here today to talk about what a career really looks like as a top songwriter, and how the role of a songwriter is changing, and who would be better to do that than Amy. So, without further ado, please welcome to the show, Amy Allen. Amy Allen, welcome to On The Record. Thanks so much for being here.
Thanks for having me.
I wanted to start off this conversation about kind of life as a modern songwriter in 2025 with going back to where it all began for you. So you grew up in Maine.
From Maine.
Yeah, you famously went to nursing school for a hot sec.
I did. Big mistake. Not cut out for it.
Wait, so how long did you last there?
2 years.
Wait, what?
2 years too long.
Oh, I was thinking this was like
No, it
a
was
semester.
long. It was long.
Wow.
It was long. But
Do you remember anything?
You know, I kind of remember like where to take people's pulses. Like really all the places on the body where you can find a pulse. I mean, 2 years is right when you get to the part where you like go into actual clinical places. And I left before that because I was certainly not cut out to be in any hospital setting.
Wow.
Yeah,
Wow.
it wasn't for
Okay.
me.
And then you went to Berklee.
Went to Berklee.
Okay. Did you graduate?
I did, but I was only there for 2.5 years because I had already done like so many courses at Boston College where I was for nursing. So I got all of those transferred and I just got to focus on the music stuff when I was there. So I did it in like a short amount of time. But I
That's
did.
nice.
Famously, it's not cool to graduate from Berklee.
Yeah.
I did.
I haven't met that many people who graduated. I applied there and I almost went. Like I got a roommate. I was ready to go.
What happened?
Well, so I found out on like some government forum, like they listed the graduation rate for Berklee and it was 49%.
Parents were like, nah.
Yeah. And my
Worth it.
parents were like, you're going to finish.
My friends that didn't graduate are because they were like doing what they love to do already.
Yeah.
So-
Yeah. Okay. That's true. That's true. So from there, you went to New York, right?
I lived in Boston for a year after I graduated
Okay.
with my band, was playing a ton of shows, working at Lululemon, trying to save up enough money. And then I moved to New York.
Okay.
And
Wow.
that's when everything kind of changed.
Okay. So what was kind of that light bulb moment for you as a songwriter?
I basically had the band and I went into a record label meeting. That's
Mhm.
the dream was like to get the band signed.
Mhm.
And they were playing music over the loudspeakers. It was that very awkward moment where everybody's like stopping and listening and you're sitting there listening to your own songs on the loudspeakers. And I just had this real like come to Jesus moment where I was like, they're not good enough. I'm just like, this isn't good enough.
Wow.
And as much as I loved performing and being with my friends and doing the band thing, I was like, how could I ask them to believe in it if I don't believe in it yet? So after that meeting, like ended the band. I was just like exited the band
Wow.
and went into songwriting, like meeting as many songwriters as I could and getting put into a lot of sessions.
Mhm.
And I met this guy, Scott Harris, who became a really good friend of mine, who is a really big songwriter still. And yeah, everything kind of went from there.
And then there was a moment when you wrote a melody for something that became a Selena Gomez song, right? Tell me about that experience, because that sounds like probably your first really
That was the
sizable
first big
cut.
one, yeah. I was going through something like this relationship had been this like tumultuous thing for like years and years of my life.
Mhm.
And it was this kind of like realization that I like kept going back to this person, no matter who else I was meeting, I would like keep going back to him and whatever. We kind of had this like moment in New York and it all just kind of like came to a head. And that night I just like, I don't know, was aimlessly singing around my apartment and did the melody of what became a Selena Gomez song. And so the next morning I went into my session, I brought that melody in, wrote it with a couple friends of mine, and then it found its way to Selena through my phenomenal manager and
Wow.
other people. That was like the massive turning point in my career, where then I moved to LA and signed a publishing deal, and that's what
Wow.
I've been doing since then.
So that was a pitch record, which one of the things I do at Billboard, one of my big focuses is publishing and songwriting. And so as part of that, I feel like I've heard since the day I started here that pitch records are becoming less and less popular. So I'm wondering for you, like, what do you think that means for songwriters who are coming up that there are less opportunities for pitch records?
And meaning if pitch songs when the artist isn't in the room. I think it means two things. The first thing feels like it would be harder for songwriters to get into the door because my first two songs that changed my trajectory of my career were pitch records. That
Mhm.
Selena Gomez song and a Halsey song called Without Me.
Mhm.
That changed everything for me. And I wouldn't have gotten to go into the room with those artists at that time in my career because I was, I
Mhm.
didn't have any track record of writing songs. So it's a little bit like, okay, you feel like two arms are being tied behind your back as a new songwriter where, the pitch game is not as strong as it used to be. And artists are wanting to be in the room and writing with the songwriters. It also lends to like really exciting songs now where,
That's
the
true.
artists are infusing every part of their life into these songs. And that's really exciting.
Mhm.
And I think the other thing that could be seen as a positive is that now big songs are coming from everywhere. Like when I was coming up in songwriting 7 or 8 years ago, TikTok wasn't a thing. Like people weren't exploding off of TikTok. And so now there are a lot more ways for songwriters to get into the door with people at early phases in their career because they might find them on TikTok and then start or however they find them. So there's pros and cons, but
Yeah. Oh, that's interesting. Like TikTok is a discovery platform, not just for artists, but also for
yeah,
aspiring
right,
songwriters.
like collaborators, and I think it just goes to show that an amazing song can come from anywhere. It's not like
Mm.
we're just being told by, the radio programmers who the big artists are of
Mhm.
today. So,
Yeah, that's true. Obviously, TikTok is like very focused on short sound bites within songs.
yeah,
Do you think that that has impacted any of the sessions that you've been in where people are kind of trying to game a song to fit a TikTok mold?
I think it definitely subconsciously goes into the brains of a lot of us because we are getting fed content that is really short and really quick and constantly it's just being fed and fed and fed to us. But I will say that the songs and the artists that I love the most are the ones that push against how
Mhm.
consumption is going right now. And I feel like most of the artists that I work with are really striving and falling in love with like the long form of like doing a full album and not caring if a song is 4 minutes and 50 seconds long versus like a
Mhm.
2 minute 40 second. I
Yeah.
feel like a lot of people are pushing against it in a way that's exciting and bringing music back to, why we all love music, which is honesty and not caring if it's like a catchy 20-second bit.
Hmm.
It's a story. So,
Yeah. And I mean, what you're saying about like longer songs, one of the benefits of right now is that because you don't have radio programmers who are like, it needs to be 3 minutes, 30 seconds, or we're not
right,
playing it.
right.
There is a little bit more freedom to play around with the outro of a song if you wanted to and just lengthen it out and have fun with
Of
it or,
course. And I
whatever.
think something that's really exciting about right now is, of course, because so many artists are in the rooms now writing their own songs with songwriters,
Mhm.
so much personality is in all these songs. And I feel like the walls have been kind of broken down of like what a pop song should be.
Mm.
And there's so many, at least what I love as a songwriter in today's world is that, like 8 years ago, if there had been a key change in a song that I was a part of, people would have been like, the public isn't going to understand that. They're not going to want that. If there are too many chords going on, like they won't get it. If there's like a witty lyric, like,
Uh-huh.
you know, that's not okay. Like that's not for a pop thing. And now it feels like there's no rules in pop music right now. It's just,
Mm.
I think, really exciting place to be.
Yeah, yeah. One of the things that I really love about Sabrina Carpenter's work, which you've worked on extensively,
Mhm.
congratulations on Man's
Thank
Best
you.
Friend, is that she is witty and she is humorous. And I feel like for a long time, it was really hard to find any humor in pop music.
Totally. I know.
I feel like for a long time, the only place where I could regularly find someone who is good at writing witty or funny lyrics were maybe like rappers like a Lil Wayne or something
Yeah,
like that. Like
totally.
he has great one-liners, but
Yeah.
I didn't really see it much in pop. So you think that like the reason why maybe like people are able to kind of express their personalities more is just maybe the democratization that we live in
I
now,
think so.
or
And maybe because of social media, fans are really getting to like live with their favorite artists. Like there's so many contact points for them to be and get to know with their favorite artist. And I think that allows for artists to feel like, okay, I'm like going to really express myself. And Sabrina, I have to give her like so many props for being vulnerable enough and really like
Mhm.
walking out on these branches that are scary and being like, here's my entire personality. Here's who I am. And like shamelessly doing her thing. And I think says so much about, the general public that they eat
Mhm.
that up. And I feel like it's really refreshing. It's
Yeah.
not feel like somebody's putting on this front of like, I'm a pop star and everything is perfect and I've never done anything wrong. It's really like engaging to have somebody that you idolize as a pop artist and
Mhm.
feel like she's just like you in so many ways.
Yeah, yeah, that's very true. I'm wondering, like, have you ever seen fans online dissecting lyrics that you've written and getting it completely wrong, or being like,
Oh
I think
yeah.
this means Sabrina's talking about this, and it's like
Of
totally
course, with
not.
every artist that I work with, that happens, and it's funny. It's honestly fun. I'm like, it's nice to see how people can read certain situations, and even if it's like a negative read on it, it's
Mhm.
nice to see like, oh, that person reacted like this, and I would have never read that or react. It's just it's interesting.
Yeah.
I think it's enlightening. It makes me love songwriting even more because I'm like, there's everybody can take away endless things from songs.
Is there any like particular examples of when you've seen that happen?
I mean, so many. So I think my major takeaway of that is how I feel invigorated by people falling in love with songwriting again
Mm.
and the people behind the songs and how fans of music are like really starting to respect and be excited about songwriters.
Yeah.
And I see that on the internet all the time now where people are like, this songwriter wrote this and part of this. And it's like, it's really exciting that songwriters are having that shine. And I get to see so many of my friends be discovered in real time by
Mhm.
fans of music. And it's really cool, I think.
So someone has listened to kind of the This Is Amy Allen playlist or the Written by Amy Allen
Yeah.
playlist. Like, what are some of the through lines that you can tell from your own songwriting catalog that are kind of like characteristic Amy Allenisms?
Hmm. It's so hard for me to identify myself. I have people all the time be like, "Oh, I heard this and I knew it was you immediately."
Really?
But I don't know. I think honestly, my favorite thing is connecting with an emotion and telling that as like honestly and truthfully as I can.
Mhm.
And whether that's my personal story or the artist's personal story, just like finding a new way to say that. And I feel like when I listen back to my favorite songs that I've been a part of, that thing holds true in all of them, where it's like
Mm.
there's a clear storytelling like through line through the entire thing and an emotion that's being hit at in every step of the way. So
Mhm.
I feel like I love that about a lot of the songs that I've been a part of, but I don't know, a lot of people say things melodically too, like they can tell it's
Oh,
like a
interesting.
melodic thing, but I don't know.
Yeah, yeah. So, what are some of your favorite songs that you've been a part of?
Oh my gosh.
Or
Hardest
let's
question.
just
It
name
changes
one. It
every
doesn't
day,
have
but
to be the utmost favorite, but just like one that has like really good memories attached.
I love Matilda that I did with Harry.
Great
I
song.
really
Yeah.
will always love that song. I think that song means so much to me, and getting to make that with him was like one of the highlights of my entire career. I love Please 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 because I love how many boundaries that pushes as like a pop
Yes.
big radio
Yeah.
song. Like when we were writing that, I don't think anybody in a million years would have been like, this is going to be a hit. Like it just
Mm.
felt like we were following some emotion that we all loved and we were all on the same train and riding it together and not knowing exactly where it was going. And we came out with something that felt so new and exciting. And to see the public react in a way that they did to that and make it a pop hit is
Mhm.
so cool.
Yeah, that's one of those hits where immediately upon like, the first listen, you just know that it is a special and very different song
Yeah.
for a pop star to
Yeah,
be.
it's so musical, which like I feel
Mhm.
like a lot of people wouldn't even pick up on the fact that there's like key changes happening and how like rangy that song is to sing. It's like an impossible song to sing and she does it
Mhm.
so flawlessly.
Mhm.
And yeah, I don't know, love so many things about that song.
I was just doing some research on you before I did this interview,
Terrible.
and don't be terrified. It's very basic stuff.
It's on the
What?
internet.
Yeah, one of the things that I was reading about is you told one of my colleagues at Billboard that you don't listen to pop radio,
I try not to.
and I thought that was really interesting
Mm.
as someone who makes pop radio hits often. So what's the rationale behind that?
I think I started not listening. I mean, of course, as a human being on the earth, when I walk outside, like I will hear the new, whoever has the big song at that moment. Like you can't escape big pop radio hits. And
Totally.
you walk and you hear them everywhere. But I think like maybe my second year living in LA when I moved here, I was doing like 2 sessions a day.
Mm.
And I entered this phase, which so many songwriter friends of mine, we've all talked about it, where you kind of feel like you're in the passenger seat of this big, bad like car ride that's going of like what pop music is. And you
Okay.
kind of get like swept into this, like, well, this is what's cool right now. And so we're chasing after this. And my influences for the song today are these 3 songs that are on the radio right now. And you just kind of lose yourself in like
Hmm.
trying to chase trend. And it really like messed with my brain for like a year where I was just like, how do I get out of this? And then I realized kind of during COVID where I like really went back and like started to fall back in love with the songs that I grew up listening to and my favorite artists that made me fall in love with music for the first place. I was like, I need to be continuously inspired by things that are not happening right this second. It's good for me to know what's happening because a lot of my friends have made the songs that are happening, and
Yeah, yeah. You want to
cheer
support
them
your
on. Of course, I
friends,
want to support them.
but
It's good to just
yeah.
have a pulse on it, but I like to be inspired by things that are not happening right now.
Yeah.
And then I have found that that allows me to tap into something that makes something sound much different than what's happening right now. And those are the songs that excite me the most, is when it feels like something that shouldn't be popular right now, and then it becomes popular.
Yeah, that's how you become the trendsetter instead of being in the passenger seat, I
Yeah, the
guess.
passenger seat is not my favorite place to be.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I get that. So, what were some of those early influences that you found yourself going back to?
A lot of Tom Petty. I
Okay.
like a lot of Tom Petty, a lot of Dolly, of I mean, John Prine, ABBA, Rolling Stones, Stevie Nicks, like Always and Forever, Paul McCartney, just like bands and artists that my dad would play in the car when I was little in Maine driving around,
Mhm.
and like that were really just like emotion core, like
Yeah.
there wasn't a ton of frill. They were like played live, and like
Mhm.
every lyric had to be there for the song to make sense.
Yes.
And that's what made me fall in love with music, is like being hit really hard in the chest of like, oh, I understand exactly what that person is feeling.
Yeah.
And it's not just some like catchy loop with like somebody talking about nonsense over, I'm like
Yeah.
I love when a song hits you like
Yeah.
square in the face. So
Yeah.
I go back to those a lot.
Yeah, one of my favorite, I guess, I don't even know if it could be called a genre, but like things to listen to are like your John Prines or your like Towns Van Zandt is one of my favorites, where it's like they don't even necessarily have the best vocals. The production is sparse.
Yeah.
It's truly just the song, and it's so stripped back that like if the song wasn't there, it completely falls apart.
Totally.
But yeah, I'm wondering like in 2025, do you think that there is a defining sound that's happening right now? How would you identify that? Like, what are we going to look back on for 2025 and be like, that's the sound of 2025?
That's fun.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think things are becoming very musical again, which I'm really excited about because, like I said, when I first kind of got into it, it was like, 4 chords. Everything was kind of dark. Everything was like, it was like a lot of like trap drums, and everything felt just kind of like everybody was trying to be really cool and kind of like melancholy and dark.
Yeah. Was this like what, like 2016?
Yeah,
Or no,
2018.
18? Yeah.
2018, 2019, 2020. And then now I feel like people want to have fun again, and people are taking themselves less seriously, and they're being like vulnerable and just like expressing themselves. And I love the trend that is right now. Like I get so inspired by the artists that are open enough to do that and follow that. And yeah, I think we'll look back at this 10 years and be like, oh, this was like a musical experimentation, like time.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that. So I I think one of the things that you touched on earlier that I want to go back to is that like some artists are really locking in with like a core group of people that they're writing songs with and really like I guess forming almost like a songwriting musical family during their projects. You've done this with Sabrina this year on Man's Best Friend, writing across all of the tracks, correct? Okay. So it's like a very tight writing room.
Yeah.
And I think there's like a lot of pros to that, maybe some cons too. I'm wondering if you could reflect on just generally this trend of kind of people locking in with the same core group.
Yeah.
Songwriting.
For me, it hadn't really been a trend. It was the thing that I like am so grateful and in love with Sabrina for, is trusting me to bring me in on Short and Sweet with her for every song, which I'd never gotten to do in my career before. And then again, of course, on Man's Best Friend. And I think that was another big turning point in my career where I was like, oh, I forgot how much I love music. Because every day I go in, my usual schedule is like I'm in with somebody different every single day.
Yeah.
Which is really fun and new, and it keeps things fresh. And sometimes I'm doing R&B, sometimes I'm doing country, other days pop, whatever. But to really get to like dig in and find a rapport with somebody and build the chemistry and get to know them inside and out and have this like shorthand and this inside jokes and then get to express that through music, like totally like bust my world wide open again with what music could be. And so now it is becoming a trend for me, at least, where, I'm getting to do that with Sabrina. I've worked on, on Tate Sauce album, I got to do like, I don't know, 8 or 9 songs on that. On Rosie's album, I got to do a lot of songs. So it's becoming a really nice flow for me to be able to like be with the artist and really move through the entire album process with them. But yeah, I mean, people for ages and ages have found like their core group, but it's hard as a songwriter to enter into that equation.
Yeah.
It's really hard. And I feel like only in the past, since Short and Sweet, like I'd never been given that luxury of the opportunity to do that. And I hope that every songwriter that loves songwriting with all of their heart and soul gets that opportunity because it really changes things, in my opinion.
Yeah. I always think back to, although I often have people come up and be like, I feel like this is really a trend right now. People are really locking in with the same people. I mean, I always think back to like really successful collaborations between producers and songwriters and artists in the past. I always think of like Quincy Jones and Michael Jackson. It's like there have been people historically that have always locked in, for lack of a better term. But
it creates a zone of like safety too with the artist where they don't feel like they have to like be giving pieces of themselves away to like different people every day of the week. They can build a bond, and then you can feel it. I feel like in the music, like you can really tell when an album's been made by like a core group of people that trust each other and know each other and are all aligned on what the project is and should be. So yeah.
You mentioned that you'll sometimes be writing pop music one day, R&B another, maybe country. I think while most people know you as a pop songwriter, you definitely have a lot of country hits, and Nashville works fairly differently. So I'm wondering if you could walk us through kind of the difference between entering a pop session versus entering a true country session.
Well, first of all, I love that they start early. They always start earlier. In LA, sometimes people will be like, we're going to start at 4. And I'm like, what is everyone doing till 4? Like, why are we starting at 4? So I love that Nashville, like, people are starting at like 10 a.m. and they're out by 4 p.m. And then they can do another session if they want, or they can just like have a regular life after 4 p.m. and go do their whatever they want, be with their family or whatever it is. But I love, to me, at least in my experience of writing country songs, and I've learned so many things from like who I see like the great women of country are, like Lori McKenna, and so many of them that I've learned from. But I love that like nothing really moves past it takes precedent over the song in a country session, in my opinion. Like in a pop session and most other genres, like the production is happening simultaneously, and sometimes you lose track of if the song is good because the production becomes like the main character a little bit.
Yeah.
Which, there's sometimes reasons why that happens, and the track or like the synth line or the guitar line is like as big of a part as the actual song itself. But for the most part, I love that in Nashville, like nothing is really getting touched or put down until the song is like concrete. And everybody's in agreement that it's like as good as it can be. And I love the like honing of the craft that happens in Nashville.
Yeah. So was it difficult to break into Nashville sessions? I've heard from some people before that like Nashville people can be fairly protective about like, their own.
Yeah.
So were they immediately receptive to you as a pop songwriter going in, or did it take some work?
I've had an amazing time going every time I've gone there. And it's funny, I meet a lot of people, and a lot of people, I think, I don't know why, but I have this reputation sometimes from people that I live in Nashville, or I'm from Nashville for some reason. And I don't know if that's because I'm from a small town or Maine, or if it's because I work with a lot of country artists, or what that is. But I always take that as like a huge badge of honor, because I think that they are the best songwriters in the world come out of, Nashville and the country music scene. But I've always just felt like it's a warm hug down there anytime I'm working, and I feel like I learn so much, and I just, it's like a breath of fresh air for me to get to be surrounded by people who are obsessed with like lyrics and songcraft as I am.
This episode is brought to you by the National Music Publishers Association, or the NMPA. You know that song you can't get out of your head? Someone wrote that. And behind every hit song is a songwriter who deserves to be paid fairly for their work. That's where the NMPA comes in. The National Music Publishers Association is the trade organization representing all American music publishers and their songwriting partners. And every day, the NMPA's mission is to protect and increase the value of songs. Based in Washington, D.C., the NMPA works on the front lines, shaping legislation, handling litigation, and navigating regulations, all to ensure that publishers and songwriters are paid fairly for every use of their work. And they're not afraid to go up against big tech to do it. The NMPA also celebrates songwriters through certifying gold and platinum hits through their official program and hosting events honoring the creators behind the music we love all year long. To learn more about this organization, head to nmpa.org. That's nmpa.org. Often on the show, I have on executives, folks on the businessy kind of side of the music industry. I'm wondering, from the creative side, what do you think business folks in the music business get wrong about your role? or about songwriters in general?
Like what songwriters
Yeah.
do?
Yeah.
That's a good question. The manager's in the house and I'm looking at her, but I don't know. I think it's actually really funny. I've had this talk with my manager before where we've been working together for like 7 or 8 years now. And I'm like, how crazy is it that you've actually never seen me do what I do?
Wait,
It's
wow.
really
Yeah.
crazy because it's this like sometimes an A&R or a manager will sit in on the session, but like no songwriter likes that. If any songwriter
Yeah.
tells you they like that, I'm like, you're lying. It is not helpful when that's happening
Yep.
because you just feel like you're like mom is or dad, like you feel like a chaperone's in the room, you
Mhm.
know? And
Yeah.
it's really, I don't know. It feels like really constricting to me and
Mhm.
to most songwriters. I know nobody likes it when that happens.
Mhm.
So it's interesting that like, you know, she's every song I've ever written, she's been a part of, you know, getting it to the finish line of like having it come out or whatever. And she's never actually seen me do the thing. So I can imagine like there's still this like, I don't know,
Like a mystique
that's
to it.
mystique to it a little
Yeah.
bit, which I kind of like. I'm like,
Yeah.
feels magical.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think sometimes people hear songwriter and it's synonymous with top liner, which I don't really like the term top liner because it makes it seem like a lot of songwriters don't know how to play an instrument or aren't instrumental in creating the like chords of the song, or like we just go in there and we like sing a melody and then we have maybe a lyric. You know, I don't know. I think songwriters are so, at least my favorite songwriters that I'm inspired by that I love like are so in love with the entirety of how a song gets made,
Mhm.
whether that's like production or, you know, I come up with chords for so many songs and that's one of my favorite parts. Like
Mhm.
I don't love it as much as I love lyrics, but I love coming up with different, you know, chord progressions and pushing myself to learn different ones or how we could lift the song with, you know, I
Mhm.
don't know.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's so many roles that a songwriter plays and I think that that sometimes maybe isn't fully like understood.
Mm-hmm. So one of the things that probably a manager or an A&R in your team probably deals with on your behalf is like the idea of splits. So basically, if someone is listening here and doesn't know what that means, like after a song is written and it's actually going to come out,
Yeah.
you have to determine like who owns what percentage of the song, who gets what percentage of royalties. As a creative, obviously, that's a tough conversation. You just poured out your heart and soul to these people, and now you have to get down to business, and so that's typically handled by the business. But I'm wondering from your vantage point, have you ever watched like a splits conversation end up ruining a creative partnership?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, the standard is if you know us four were in a room writing today, even if I wrote the entire song, like chords, melody, lyrics, the whole thing. If we're all in the room, it's equal splits. That's
Mhm.
usually how it goes.
Okay.
So there's not like a lot of like real time, like, well, I wrote the chorus and you wrote the verse. So like, what's our, you know, it's not that really ever in my experience. But what happens a lot, and this kind of is like touching on like songwriters' rights and how songwriters aren't necessarily always like really respected or put in, you know, a I don't know.
Not treated
Yeah, not
super
treated
fairly, yeah.
fairly, really. Is that a lot of times I'll be in a session and there'll be, you know, me and an artist and a producer, and then all of a sudden the song will come out and there'll be like 4 other names or 3 other names on it that I've never heard of or that I've never met or whatever. And it's like it comes through usually the producer of like being like, well, my buddy's added this thing to the track and this thing. So it's like I've seen that get in the way all the time
Mm.
where what the artist takes, you know, offense to that, or I am not okay with that. And
Mhm.
there's things like that. But yeah, I mean, it's hard to do something as emotionally,
Mhm.
you know, compelling and intimate as you do and then have business like somehow get in the way of it. Of course, if like relationships can be strained with that.
Yeah. Yeah. I imagine that it's also a challenge because you really don't know how much like, you know, a person in a secondary room, like, you know, let's say you have 3 people in the original room
Yeah.
and then they bring in an extra producer later on and
Yeah.
you're not there, so you don't even know how much they contributed. Maybe they contributed a lot, but it's hard to tell when you're not even there to see it. So.
Right. I mean, usually I can tell by listening.
Okay, yeah, fair.
But I know
Fair.
what you mean. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a bit like the songwriters are like kept in the dark with a lot of stuff like that, which isn't super fair considering they're the ones that are like giving the song that even the song needs to be done for anything to even be produced, you know? So
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. I'm wondering, like, how do you feel about like the idea of per diems? I've heard people talk about this idea for songwriters.
Yeah. I think it's a phenomenal idea.
Okay.
I was just talking to my good friend, Ross Golan about it yesterday,
Oh, nice.
who's like such an advocate for songwriters and such like a beacon of light in the music industry right now for songwriters' rights. But I think it's a phenomenal idea because as like we were talking earlier, like the new generation of songwriters and the next generation of songwriters, where the pitch game is not really there, and
Hmm.
you know, it's a really hard industry to make a like decent living wage. There needs to be like a middle class of songwriters that can have a living wage, and for most of them, they don't. They have to work other jobs, and then of course they can't even be doing what they love to do. And
Hmm.
so I think per diems are very fair, at least to like cover the, writers like lunch and transportation to get to the session or whatever it is.
Hmm.
I think that it's a phenomenal idea, and I really hope. I know that the Iris have been pushing for it, and I hope that it's something that becomes way more, like
Yeah. Normal.
spread and normalized, because I think for new songwriters, it's almost like crucial that that happens.
Hmm. Yeah, I think it would probably surprise a lot of people to know that you could be a songwriter working for a year and you're doing back-to-back sessions, and yet just none of the songs have come out yet, and so
Totally.
there's literally no money there until the
No
song
money.
comes out.
And
And
back
then,
in like the early 2000s, if you had like the deepest cut on like a Backstreet Boys, you're like set for life.
oh
And
yeah,
now if you have a deep cut on like the biggest artist you can imagine today, if it's a deep cut, you're not making any money off of it, because it's not going to go to radio, and streaming platforms don't pay
yeah, yeah.
writers. So it's hard. It's a really hard like career path to go down in this day and age right now.
Hmm. Hmm. And there's a lot of people who enter as songwriters that also do production. Do you do production as well?
I do. Yeah.
Okay.
I think it helps me stay in love with music. It's like being on both sides of it, and really getting to like get better and learn about the production side, and how that can like further my understanding of then writing a song too. It's like, yeah, I think it's helpful. And I think for any writer coming into the game right now, like that is also feels crucial to me, to like have as many tools in the belt as you can.
Hmm. Yeah. And I do think, as far as the pitch game goes, although it doesn't feel like there's a ton of artists who are taking pitches, it seems like a lot of artists are turning towards K-pop as maybe a vehicle for some of their songs. Can you tell me about what the difference is in writing for K-pop versus a like more of an American pop song?
I actually haven't done a lot of K-pop.
Okay.
So I'm not the best person to answer that, but I love K-pop, and I have a
Mhm.
lot of friends that love writing K-pop.
Mhm.
And I think it's really exciting to, the few times, even just writing APT, which isn't a
Mhm.
K-pop song, but it's, we're putting Rosie's culture in the forefront of this like really big, amazing pop song that like kind of took over the world this past year. It's really exciting to see how like culture can have an impact all over the world. And I think it's been really exciting the past few years to see how big K-pop is in the States,
Mhm.
and how, so many of the songs that maybe are written from a different, like I would have to learn about the like
Yeah.
culturally what makes a K-pop song K-pop song, and a lot of my dear friends are doing it, and the songs are phenomenal, and I think it's like
Yeah.
phenomenal to see the hold it's having on the world right now.
Yeah. Admittedly, because I am not someone who listens to a ton of K-pop, I actually like can't even totally pinpoint what defines a K-pop song. You just kind of know it when you hear it, I guess.
It feels very like melodically different in terms of
Okay.
like the structure. Like there's not in my opinion, when I listen to it, there's not a lot of repetition of parts. It's like every section in a regular pop song, like I don't know, I'd say it's like common. The second verse will be the same melody as the first verse. That is a common, not always, but in a K-pop, and when I just listen, like structure wise, it seems like every section is changing, which is cool and unique and different, and
Yeah.
something I want to, dive into a little more.
Yeah, so it probably like wouldn't be possible if you had just like an old song laying around to just pitch it out to Korea. Like that doesn't just work that way.
I mean, there's so many phenomenal K-pop writers, so they're handling that just well right now.
Yeah, yeah. Also, you wrote a song for one of the Trolls soundtracks, correct?
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
with Justin.
Yes, yes.
Shellback, yeah.
And so I'm wondering if you can tell me about what it's like to write knowing that it's going to be in a film. Does that change the process of writing the song?
That was one of the first songs I ever did help write. That was for a film. So that was a really fun thing. But also I had never worked with like a childhood icon of mine before. Like
Yeah.
Justin, like I was raised on NSYNC and had been a huge fan of his solo project. And so that was the first time I got to really work with somebody like I grew up listening to. And I think he's one of the best writers that has been in pop music ever. I think he's phenomenal. And he really helped me with, learning how to write for a film in that session. And now it's something that I love to do, and I've been doing a lot more of it. I'm working on like a bunch of projects right now where I'm doing original songs for movies and
Cool.
limited series and things like that. But I'd say the difference is, for me, I really like it because it's a very specific brief a lot of the time. And I think some creatives would be like, I don't want a brief, I just want to like roll through. But I feel like it's a nice change of pace for me to have somebody be like, okay, this isn't for a specific artist, but this is like the scene, this is the context, and like write a song that supports that and like can hit the nail on the head with that. And I really like that challenge. I think it's fun.
Yeah, yeah. Writing to a prompt. I like
Yes,
that.
writing to a prompt.
So you're saying that like Justin was someone that you really grew up on. Is there anyone that you haven't worked with yet that would just be so much fun to get in the room with?
So many. Stevie Nicks would be my top. I just am like,
yeah,
her melodies and her lyrics there's just like always have me the chokehold. I absolutely love Stevie. Paul McCartney. I mean, so many.
Yeah.
Adele, like Rihanna. There's an endless list that I'm always talking to my manager about that are huge. She would be huge. Like, they'll never happen, but it would be amazing if they ever did.
Hey, you know what? Never say never.
Yeah,
never say never.
true.
Well, so you have been around quite a few artists on their ascent or after their ascent, like they're already up there in the stratosphere as A-list stars. I'm wondering from your vantage point, it's a little bit philosophical, but do you think that stars are born or are they made through like hard work and effort?
Maybe a little bit of both, but I think the ones that I love to work with are the ones that made themselves. That really put in the time and the love and the work and just kept at it for a really long time. And I think it's really exciting that so many artists that we know and love today, like their careers weren't like a flash in the pan overnight where all of a sudden they're famous and they're a household name. Like, of course, Sabrina comes to mind, where she has been working her ass off for so long and she's been so good for so long. And sometimes it just takes the world a second to catch up and to like get in on what's going on. And I just think the resilience, of course, coupled with like the phenomenal talent that she is like, that is why she's one of my favorite artists in the entire world. I love seeing a hard worker win. Like, it's my favorite thing.
That's incredible. And I guess relatedly, do you think that great songwriters are born or made?
I think that they can be made because I definitely like, there's so many songwriters that I love that, you know, since when they were little, they just like had the thing. And I'm not proclaiming to be a great songwriter, but I definitely was not good when I was, you know, like you hear Billie Eilish singing like,
oh my gosh, yeah,
when she's like 15 or whatever.
It's like, how does she even know to write that? Yeah.
Where does that come from?
Yeah.
And when I listen back to like little recordings I made when I was 15, I'm like, jaw hits the floor. They're the worst things I've ever heard. Like, actually so bad. And I just love working. I really just like love, if I can't figure something out, I like have to stick at it until I figure it out and until it feels meaningful to me. And I feel like I've unlocked something, and songwriting did not come naturally to me. But I just loved storytelling and I loved listening to music. And so I really worked for it, but I guess a bit of both.
Yeah. So given that storytelling is the thing that you always come back to with songwriting, do you storytell in other ways? Like, are you a journaler? Are you someone who is interested in writing essays or books or anything like that?
No.
Okay.
I should
Just
be.
the song.
I go through phases of journaling. I do, but I do feel like, a songwriting career there's so much output. Like, it's so emotionally output heavy that by the time I get home, I'm watching like Love Island and things like that, because I'm like, I just need something that I can like watch without like having to really focus in on.
Yeah.
Or I'm like listening to a book on audio, you know, I'm just like listening to an Audible or something. But I go through phases of journaling.
Yeah.
When I worked on my own album last year, I was like writing poems every day. And it actually was really nice. So I think I should probably get back into that, honestly, because it does, even if, you know, for like 9 out of 10 of them are horrible, like there would be one every once in a while where I'm like, oh, that can be a song, and I really like that. And I don't know where that came from in my subconscious, but that's interesting to me. So I should journal more or try to write poetry.
It's okay. I should too. I know.
Get this.
It's hard.
Well.
I have a few friends who always tell me to do the artist's way, and then I started for like 1 week.
Have you done it?
Like 1 week. I have like 4
It's
copies
hard. I know.
of the artist's way.
I did it in college.
You did.
It's
okay. Did you
amazing.
finish?
I did.
Okay, maybe that's why you have a songwriting career.
That's where it came from. It's hard though.
Yeah.
And you feel, I don't know. I feel like this oftentimes going into sessions too. Like, there's this weird like imposter syndrome of like picking up a pen and just like being like, write whatever comes to mind. I'm like,
yeah.
I don't know. There's something really scary about that to me. And you wouldn't think there would be, because I'm a songwriter. That's what I do. But there's something like when a guitar isn't involved or a piano isn't involved, or it's just like just journal your thoughts. That feels like a little bit crippling to me sometimes.
Yeah.
I
I mean,
really
it's
have
the
to break through the
blank.
wall.
Yeah,
The
it's the
blank
blank
page.
page. Yeah.
Terrifying. The
Yeah.
best and the worst thing of all time.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, that I totally understand why like the idea of like a prompt for a song for a film would be kind of
It's fun.
nice sometimes. Yeah.
It is, because you're not like, okay, today. Well, I do end up always digging into my own personal experiences, but it's not like you're digging for that, like for the seed. The seed is kind of like given to you, and then you're like, okay, how do I connect to the seed?
Yeah.
It's coming from a different place, which I think is refreshing.
Yes. As you're building your career as a songwriter, I imagine you had to do just tons and tons of sessions just to see if anything would work. And that's got to be really creatively draining. So I'm wondering, how did you push through and keep doing all of the sessions that were on your books when you were coming up, and get through the writer's block or the creative strain that took on you?
When I first moved to LA, and my manager can attest to this, I was just like, put me into every session. I was just so grateful to be here, because I thought I was going to have to move home to Maine and like live with my parents. 'Cause, I was really giving myself a year to like figure it out in New York. And then I cracked something, and then I got to LA and I signed the deal. But I was just like, just felt so excited to be in LA. I was like, put me in everything. I don't care what the session is. I don't care how late it goes. I don't care if it's on the weekends. And I remember I counted it. I did like something, it was around like 90 days or something straight of sessions. Like I didn't take a day off, and I was doing doubles a lot of those days. And I think that was probably the most like burnt out I ever felt, obviously, because I was like, not only was I working that many days in a row, but I was going into, I didn't know anybody yet. I didn't have like my squad of like, okay, I like this producer, I like this writer. I didn't, every day was new.
Yeah.
And like, think about how emotionally draining that is when you're like, okay, I have to like dig deep into my soul to find like a thing to talk about today. But I also am meeting like 3 or 4 new people that I've never met, and having to hear about their life experiences and how we can all, it's like a lot in the brain.
Yeah.
But I had a teacher at Berklee that talked a lot about input output periods instead of like writer's block or burnout, and just thinking of it as like, okay, when sometimes you have a really long output period where you're like writing a lot, you're doing a lot, and sometimes it'll feel like you're blocked and you don't have any more to do. And that's not a block. It just means you need an input period where you just like live a little bit, listen to some music, chill out. It's like, if you don't live, you don't have anything to write about. So that helped me a lot to never get stuck in like, oh, I'm in writer's block. Because I feel like some people feel like they get crippled by that.
Yeah.
And now I'm just like, okay, it just means my brain needs to like have some listening time, and just like, through osmosis, take some new things in, and just like let it marinate for a sec.
Yeah. And so after that period of so much output, when did you feel like you finally got your chance to breathe?
I feel like I got my chance to breathe when I started finding like my people that I love to work with. And when I started finding chemistry with artists like Harry or like Sabrina, where I was like, okay, I found people that it feels just like I'm like home in the session. Like I feel like they love what I love what they love. Our instincts are similar. I'm learning from them. They're learning from me. Like it just felt like musically I like had a like solid base kind of, and I wasn't every day like throwing paint at these walls. I just kind of like I knew where I was and who I was. And then it felt like I could be in the passenger's or in the driver's seat finally and be like, okay, I'm in control now of what type of music I'm a part of. And that felt really exciting to me.
So when you look at other songwriters and other producers who've been successful, how important do you think someone's personality plays in their success as a songwriter and producer?
That's fun. That's super interesting. I don't know. I've actually never had that question. That's a good question. I think
there you go.
I feel like a lot of people are always like, what's the secret sauce? Like, you have, you write so many songs a year and you write with a bunch of different artists. Like, what's the thing? And of course, I love writing, and I have put a lot of time into making my writing like as good as I feel like it can be at this point in my life. And I still have a lot to learn. But I feel like a lot of why I've like, gotten to work with so many of these artists and continue to work with them is because I just feel like a friend.
Yeah.
Like there's a lot of people that will come into the room and they feel like a big, massive, like artistic presence or like this larger than life thing, which is fun too. But I also feel like artists have crazy lives. They're always on tour. They're always like having to, be somewhere doing something wild, and to be able to like be in the studio and have it feel like a really like warm, homey environment with people that they can just like shoot the shit with and feel like like-minded too, I think is really important. And for them to open up and for them to feel safe to make their art. So I
Mhm.
feel like in terms of that, like my personality, just feeling kind of like you're,
Yeah.
you know, run of the mill, like good friend is helpful to me.
Yeah. I imagine that's also really comforting for female artists who probably don't have that many women collaborators in the
Yeah.
studio anyway.
Yeah.
But yeah, I imagine like an artist's life is just so hectic that it can also be lonely. So being able to lock in and feel emotionally connected with the people around them for a long period of time is probably quite comforting.
Definitely.
Yeah. So another thing that I wanted to ask you about, which is kind of random, I've always been really fascinated by the idea of like flipping songs. So to explain to people who are listening who don't know what that means, I personally feel that this got more popular in the last few years because there have been so many catalog deals,
Yeah.
so many catalogs changing hands from iconic songwriters, iconic artists.
Yeah.
And so these people who buy these new catalogs, they want to find a way to up the value of it. So sometimes they'll reach out to producers or songwriters that they know and say, hey, I have the rights to this song.
Yep.
If you want to flip it and make it your own thing, we'll help you clear it.
Right.
And people actually started doing that. I feel like 2022
was big for the flip.
Oh my God.
Big flip time.
Looking at the Hot 100, I was like, I can't do it.
A lot of flips.
So many flips. It was like First Class, Jack Harlow was one, Blue, David Guetta, and BB Rexha. There's so many.
There's a lot.
I can name a million, but
it's a really specific skill. I've actually never done
Yeah.
it in my career.
yeah, so that's what I was going to ask is like, I don't think I've ever heard you do one.
Haven't.
And how do you feel about them?
I feel like I haven't because I would only ever want to do a flip for a song that I'm like, this song is unbelievable. And then with that territory comes like, I don't want to ruin one of my favorite songs of all time. You know, like
Yeah.
when you start thinking about like, oh, my favorite like Sheryl Crow song, okay, I'm going to flip it and like add new lyrics to it. I'm like, there's a very high chance it's not going to be better than the original. And like,
Yeah.
you know, I don't know. I get a little bit, I think I've gotten in my own head with it in ways like that sometimes, but there are some amazing flips, like for
Mhm.
sure.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe it'll be coming down the track for me at some point, but I haven't to date done one, no.
Yeah. Yeah.
It is an amazing skill. I have friends that are phenomenal at it. And I'm like, how do you get out of your head of what the original was to then flip it? And, you know, I'm like,
Mhm.
I would just be so set on how good the original was, but
Yeah.
some people are amazing at it.
Yeah. I mean, it's really interesting. And it's still going on today. I think 2022 was definitely the peak.
Yeah.
But you still see it
Yeah.
hang around sometimes. It's usually like a little bit more covert now. I think
Yeah.
people are doing it a little bit less obvious, but it's interesting.
Yeah.
It's interesting for sure.
Those Just Walk On By is like one of my
Oh, yeah.
favorite ones that I've heard in a really long time.
That was
Because that instrumental, like that
Mm.
whole, oh my gosh. And then just putting something on top of it that is so not what the original was is
Mhm.
amazing. I love it.
So I know it'll be hard to narrow this down, but what is a song that you really wish you had written?
Oh, that's so hard. Oh my gosh. Probably Wild Horses by the Stones.
Mm.
That's really like, that is a perfect song to me. That is a really, really, really perfect song to me.
Good answer.
Yeah, I mean, there's
Yeah.
some songs that you look back on and you're just like, oh, to have been a fly on the wall in the moment of that being written would have been so crazy.
Mhm.
Having now the idea of how big that song was going to be. Like,
Yeah.
imagine watching Let It Be happen. Like, it just was so crazy to me. And that's what's so cool about songs and music in general is that, like, sometimes they come from the most random moments in life and they turn into the biggest songs of all time. It's wild.
Yeah. Do you think that you have a good sense of when you are writing a hit?
No.
Really? Not at all.
I have an idea of if I love it.
Okay.
I was just saying this to somebody the other day because with Please, 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 I know I've already talked about this song. I just love it though. But that song to me, like, that didn't sound like anything on the radio that I had really ever heard. So it wasn't obvious to my brain, like, this is a hit.
Mm.
But I knew the second after we finished writing it, I was like, I love this song. I don't know what else to say. I love it. And like went to bed singing it, woke up singing it, just loved it. So
Mhm.
my radar is really good for when I really, really love something. But
Mhm.
calling a hit, especially in today's day and age of the music, and it's
Yeah.
just like, who the hell
knows?
knows?
Who
It's
knows?
anybody's game right now out there, which is cool.
Yeah.
It's fun.
Yeah. So I think to end off our conversation, you've worked with so many different artists and you've gotten some extended time with a lot of them. And I feel like with every artist, there's usually like a few key attributes about them that I feel like are almost like superpowers to them that make them really special. So I'm going to name off a couple of your collaborators. And I want you to tell me what you think. their superpowers are, I guess,
Of
as
course.
artists.
Okay. Okay.
We'll start with Sabrina.
Ugh. Hardworking,
Mhm.
fearless, prolific,
That's great.
funny,
Mhm.
funny as hell,
Funny.
obviously.
Yes. Harry Styles.
Very engaging.
Mm.
Feels like somebody you've known forever. Very unique and stylized, in my opinion, in a way that is like very exciting to work with. Knows exactly who he is. Sorry, this is more than one word answer.
No, I think that's
And
interesting.
fun. I mean, so fun.
Yeah.
And also fearless. All of the favorite artists of mine are like fearless is at the top because
Yeah.
they're just, they go for it and they're themselves. And I think that's amazing.
And aside with Harry is I just heard that he like ran this marathon
Oh.
in like I don't even know what
like
the
a
time was. It was
crazy time.
insane. Aren't you a runner?
I am.
Okay.
My sister runs professionally for Adidas. And so I've
Oh, wow.
been, once I've done a few marathons, just like tagging very far behind her. But huge props to Harry because he had a very fast time.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah.
It's really good running, I think, for artists and for songwriters because it's like kind of one of the times for me where I'm like can fully zone out.
Yeah.
And not be thinking about like what I'm, I don't know. I think it's
Mhm.
really healthy.
And to end it off, Tate McRae.
Ugh. So sweet. The best dancer in the entire world.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Also very prolific and extremely hardworking. I was just with her the other day and I'm like listening to what her schedule is right now and my brain like can't even compute how hard she's working and all the things she's doing right now. So yeah.
Yeah. She sounds like quite the athlete, I guess, as an artist. Yeah.
Yeah. She's amazing.
And then to end it off, we always ask our guests to make us a playlist. We have a playlist that we're running on Spotify where we add all of these songs to it. And we have the same 3 prompts for everyone. So the first one is a song you can no longer gatekeep. So a lesser known song.
Only a Broken Heart by Tom Petty. It's off of Wildflowers and it's one of my favorite songs of all time. And I feel like nobody knows that song for some reason, but for like lyric geeks like I am, that is a perfect song. Like every single line needs to be there for the song. It just, oh my God, it's amazing.
I love that.
Head over heels.
A favorite throwback.
Ooh, maybe What the World Needs Now by Dionne Warwick. It's like Burt Bacharach and Hal David, and it's so good.
That's a classic lineup.
Such a
God.
it's just like and it was in that movie My Best Friend's Wedding, which as like a 90 kid is like one of my favorite movies of all time, and it's just a perfect song. Big throwback.
Love it. And a guilty pleasure.
Ooh, my manager and I listen a lot to Bewitched, also from the 90s era. C'est la vie, Blame It on the Weatherman. But also I was watching Beauty and the Beast on, this isn't guilty because, I mean, of course, these songs are phenomenal, but I was watching Beauty and the Beast on a flight the other night from London back here. And every single melody in that entire movie of every song is like the most heartbreakingly beautiful thing I've ever. I hadn't watched that movie in so long.
I need to rewatch it then, it sounds like.
Oh my God. The melody writing in that, I think, is some of the best melody writing like ever to be done.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
The main
there you
song,
have it.
da-da-da-da-da, is so good. Sorry,
Oh,
geeking out.
I love that. I love that. Well, Amy, thank you so much for coming to On The Record.
Thank
This was so much fun.
Thanks for having me.
All right. Another special thank you to Amy Allen for sharing her insights with us this week. And now let's throw it to our Hot 100 chart roundup for the week of October 11th. Your Idol by Soulja Boys falls to number 10. Love Me Not by Raven Lenae sticks at number 9. I Got Better by Morgan Wallen breaks back into the top 10 this week at number 8. Soda Pop by Soulja Boys falls to 7. Lose Control by Teddy Swims, which has been on the Hot 100 for 111 weeks, rises this week to number 6. Daisies by Justin Bieber rises to 5. Morgan Wallen and Tate McRae's duet, What I Want, sticks at number 4. Tate McRae's new song, Tit for Tat, debuts at number 3. Ordinary by Alex Warren stays at number 2. And finally, the number 1 song this week on the Hot 100 chart is Golden by Huntrix from the K-pop Demon Hunter soundtrack. This is the 8th week at number 1 for this song. That's our show for today. Thanks for tuning into On The Record, a co-production of Billboard and SickBird Productions. If you liked what you heard today, please consider subscribing, rating, liking, all those good things. It really helps a new show like ours reach new audiences. Again, I'm your host, Kristen Robinson, and tune in next week. See you then.